Hi, I'm Randy Wood with TenPoint Crossbows. Today we're going to talk about how easy it is to sight in your variable power scope. Your scope likely came mounted onto the crossbow, but if you bought the scope separately, mount it according to the instructions. Once you have the scope mounted, you'll want to adjust the speed to the speed the crossbow will be shooting. This bow should be shooting about 450, so before we take our first shot, we're going to go ahead and make that adjustment to 450, slide that ring forward to unlock it. I've got it where I want it. I slide it back in place to lock it. So let's take our first shot. The first thing you'll want to do is look through the scope and make sure that it's in focus for you. The back of the scope will have a focus ring that will turn left or right, and that will bring the focus in or out for you a little bit. So to adjust that focus, you're just going to twist that ring in or out, and that way you can get the crosshair and your target focused exactly the way you want it. The next thing you'll want to do before we start shooting the crossbow is make sure that the scope is on the bow squarely. You can do this as you look through the optic. You want to make sure those crosshairs are level and vertical. You can do this with either a level, or if you have an upright, like a door frame or something like that, it makes it very easy to use that to make sure that that elevation line is squared up. You may need to loosen if it is off. You'll loosen those rings just slightly, tilt that scope left or right, get it squared up, tighten those screws back down nice and snug, and you should be all set. When preparing for the first shot, if you've purchased the scope separately, you'll want to take that first shot fairly close at about 10 yards. If the scope came mounted on the bow from the factory, you can really make this first shot at about 20 yards. Once you've made your first shot, and if you need to make adjustments, you'll do so with the turrets. On this particular setup, these will pull up and you make your adjustments left or right. Push it back down, it'll snap in place. On your windage, same thing, pull it out, make your adjustments, put it back in, lock it into place. On the Rangemaster scope, you'll have to take your turret covers off and go ahead and make your adjustments with the dial underneath there, and then just sight in left or right depending on where the scope is hitting. Let's go ahead and take our first shot and see where we're at. Looks like we're shooting a little bit left and just a little bit high. We'll make those adjustments and take another shot. At 20 yards, we were a little high and we were a little left. So let's go ahead and adjust the elevation, and we're going to bring it down just a few clicks, lock that back in place, and we were a little bit left. So we're going to unlock that and bring that to the right just a few clicks, lock it back up, and let's give it a shot and see where we are. We've made our adjustments. Let's go ahead and load the bow, shoot it again, and see if those adjustments were correct. Looks good. Now we can move this target out to 40 yards and make our speed adjustments from there. We made our adjustments, everything's sighted in at 20. Now we're going to go ahead and take our 40-yard shot and see where we hit. All right, so we just shot at 40 yards. We were a little high and a little bit right. Reminder, again, at 40 yards, we're not using the elevation any longer. We're just going to adjust the speed ring. So I'm going to slide that forward. And again, if you're shooting high, you turn your speed up. If you're shooting a little low, you turn your speed down. So we were just a little high. I'm going to turn that speed up just a little bit, lock that back in place, and then we were just a little bit right. So I'm going to go ahead and take that back just a couple clicks, lock that back in place, and we should be good. I made my speed ring adjustment. I made a slight windage adjustment. Let's load the arrow and see where it hits. That'll get it done.